Thank you, Dr. Strongin, for joining us today.
It's a
Going to
pleasure.
introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Tim Strongin. I went to school at the University of New Mexico, graduated about 50 years ago, was in ROTC, met my wife in high school. We went to college together. When ROTC gave me $100 a month for being a cadet, we used it to rent an apartment. We married and put each other through school, then grad school, then went away with the Air Force, spent almost 10 years on active duty. They, not at my request, sent us to our hometown. And we got out. I went into the reserve components and finished 33 years of commission service and have been retired since then, do volunteer work. When I was an undergraduate, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And so my college roommate said, hey, why don't you come down to ROTC? And I walked in, and at that time it was Sergeant Ron Bedore, was an E5, and he looked over my freshman grades and he said, well, why don't you take the test? So I came and took the test, and he said, okay, you did fine on the test. We'd love to have you, but you got to lose 70 pounds. Because I weighed 276 pounds when I showed up at the front door. So I lost 70 pounds in 3 months, lost the weight, passed the physical, then, started as a cadet. I had run into one of the other cadets who said, you need to go over to the psychology department and talk to the professor there about getting into the honors program. Well, I was very excited about the thought of learning psychology only because it seemed easy. So I went over there, and John looked at my grades. He said, yeah, well, you can try the course. Your grades are fine. And we hit it off. We got along great. Well, he's been my mentor for my whole life. I did experimental and clinical psychology just down the street here. I got a nice fellowship from the National Institute of Health, and then another one from the National Institute of Mental Health that supported my education. When it came time to do an internship, I decided to go to the University of California Medical School at Davis, California. And then I went on active duty. But I was still interested, particularly in aviation. So my very first job in the Air Force just happened to be at Luke Air Force Base. The hospital commander was a psychiatrist. Colonel Zimmerman mentored me into the application of psychology to aviation. And circumstances just worked out that they said, you've got a state license a little bit early. We have a job for you in Germany if you'll go now. So we went to Germany, and it was a fighter base. Luke Air Force Base, of course, is a fighter base. We went to a fighter base in far western Germany, a town called Bitburg, and I ran into a fighter pilot. He turned out to be a lifelong friend. He introduced me to the squadron. I learned more about it. I wound up becoming attached to the fighter squadron there. And then it went so well that all of Air Force in Europe at that time arranged to have their psychologists work with the flight surgeons and the operational squadrons. I went from there to the School of Aerospace Medicine, where I did psychology and aviation. And it was great. And then as a civilian, I went to here at the Air Force Safety Center. Got to work with aircraft mishap investigations, well, every kind of safety, ground safety, occupational safety, vehicle safety, as well as proactive safety. And that's really what I was involved in, is instead of waiting for an accident, what do we know and how do we prevent mishaps from taking place? And to that end, we set up a fellowship, a postdoctoral fellowship for aviation psychology. All the young people that went through that program went out and did an amazing job. They took over the leadership of the thing, and now aviation psychology is all over the Air Force.
What hobbies do you pursue now?
I always wanted to see what it was like to write a novel, but I wanted it to be historically true. And in the back of the book, there's about 30 pages of real people. What I do with the book is I signed the rights, all the proceeds from the book. I pay to have it printed, or I pay for everything like that. But when a book sells, whoever sells the book keeps their share, and all the rest of the money goes to the John Logan Museum in Illinois. I don't get anything from it. I don't want anything from it. I'd always wanted to try paint by numbers. Well, I did that. Like the third or fourth painting I did came out. It's really nice. Well, so I started painting. So now I paint most days of the week. I don't sell the paintings. If someone wants a painting, I will ask them to make a donation to a charity that we agree on. They get to suggest it. If they don't have one in mind, I'll suggest one. But if they will make a donation, I'll give them the painting. And then I gave a couple to the Alumni Association. There's one of Scholes Hall and another one of Hodgin Hall. So that's what I do. I paint, and then I do other volunteer work. I try to stay active, but never busy. When I think back about my career and mistakes and things like that, I've been so fortunate. I didn't have a good career because I had the best job. It was the best job because I tried to make it that. And so, yeah, we all just have a little bit of time on this earth. And the people in this book and all over history made our lives possible. Maybe a half of a percent contribution by somebody from a long time ago. I'm very proud of having been married for 50 years. I'm proud of what all my kids do for their communities, because all of them, one is in mental health, one is a fighter pilot, and one works for Animal Humane. And so they serve their communities. I'm proud of that.